The day they snapped. It began just like a typical Tuesday. No one saw the storm coming, but by the end, the world had transformed, and no man who experienced it would ever be the same. For months, women had been observing, continuously scrolling through their man's social media profiles, noticing the same trends repeatedly. There was always another woman, a gym freak, a social media influencer, or that colleague with the overly tight clothes and the overly popping smile. The likes, the comments, the deep stares on the streets. It all added up day after day like unseen burdens on their hearts. Men, as oblivious as ever, shrugged it off. "You're overreacting," they would say. "It's just a like, it's just a look." But it wasn't. It was the gradual wearing away of trust, the continuous trickle of uncertainty, and on that fateful day each woman reached her tipping point at the same time. It was early afternoon when Rachel noticed her boyfriend Matt glancing at another woman's Instagram. A quick look, but it was enough to shift something inside her. Her heartbeat pounded out of her throat, her breath became short, and the world around her seemed to dim, quieten. Matt was unaware, unbothered. He was preoccupied liking skimpy pictures of a woman he'd never seen in person. She stood slowly, her head echoing with static. Her hands shook, and she couldn't comprehend the anger brewing within her. She went to the kitchen and, without thinking, selected the sharpest knife from the drawer. Her vision narrowed, concentrating solely on Matt, now reclining on the couch scrolling aimlessly. Simultaneously across town, Jessica was confronting her boyfriend Derek and his wandering eyes. Every time they were out, he had a habit of ogling other women. Tonight was no exception. At the restaurant, his eyes had strayed yet again, fixing onto the waitress' backside as she walked away. Jessica's hands trembled as she held her glass of water, almost breaking the glass from the grip. Something primitive roused in her, an anger that surpassed jealousy. She couldn't restrain it anymore. She excused herself to the restroom, but instead of heading inside, she diverted into the kitchen. She seized a hefty cast-iron skillet from the stove, her knuckles blanching as she clenched her fingers around the handle. The chef barely acknowledged her as she exited, her eyes empty. Women worldwide felt it, something timeless, something primal. It wasn't purely the jealousy or the annoyance or the ignorance. It was centuries of being neglected, belittled, and dismissed. It was the accumulation of emotional wounds inflicted by roving eyes, concealed betrayals, and dismissive remarks. And on that day, the dam burst. Phones began ringing non-stop, emergency rooms jammed with injured men who were clueless about what had hit them. Some had been assaulted with kitchen knives, others had been knocked down by blunt objects or pushed down steps. The news couldn't keep pace with the mounting death toll, the anarchy, the insanity. By sunset, it was a worldwide phenomenon. News channels termed it the snap, as if it were neat, straightforward, but for the witnesses, it was far more terrifying. Rachel stood over Matt's body, blood pooling around her feet. She couldn't recognize her reflection in the mirror anymore. Jessica exited the restaurant, Derek's cries reverberating behind her, a sinister smile forming at the corners of her lips. Around the world, millions of women had hit their limits. And no one understood why it all occurred on the same day, at the same moment. Some speculated it was a hex, a disturbance in the fabric of reality. Others muttered about ancient magic, a collective feminine fury that had finally found a vent. But one fact was clear: after that day, men stopped staring. They stopped scrolling mindlessly, stopped liking pictures of women they'd never meet, because deep within, they were aware, even petrified. They could sense it, a lingering menace in the air, like the tang of copper on their tongues. A caution. The women had snapped, and it could happen again. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and activate notifications for more stories.